Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay. So I'm showing this slide because once you understand this slide, so wherever you are discussing about module 2, module 3, and later part of your first module, almost 3 to 3 module concept based on this slide. If you once you understand this slide concept used in this slide, then remaining you can understand better. So normally start from atom. So atoms will join together and individual square boxes here. So atoms will join together during the solidification process or crystallization process. It forms unit cell. These square boxes are the schematic representation of unit cell. So unit cell will be formed suddenly in the molten metal. Whole molten metal is not suddenly solidified in one moment. Those things you can observe even freezing of water also. Suddenly 1 liter of water is not freezed in a small interval of time. Initially, there is only 5% of the freezing takes place or small particle of ice. Then over a period of time, the complete water is freezed or it will be solidified, or there is change of phase from liquid to solid phase. In the similar way, the metal also, initially the metal atoms will rearrange themselves. It forms one unit cell. Imagine this is the one unit cell. This is the nucleus point. From this point, the adjacent water particle join, and this molten metal join, and finally solidified. There is a one nucleus point for this grain. This is one grain, one nucleus for this grain. There is in the similar way there is one more nucleus for this grain. Like that, each and every grain there is a nucleus. The nucleus is nothing but the starting point of crystallization. So once the one BCC cell is formed, so because as temperature comes down, the immediately adjacent there is a one more BCC cell will be formed, or the molten metal will be solidified and finally forms the different grain. This is one grain, this is one more grain, this is one more grain, this is one more grain, or this is one more grain. In the later classes today only, so you are discussing about the different defects in the defect. We are talking about microscopic defect, not macroscopic defect. When you discussing about the defect, the one of the defect is the grain boundary. The grain boundary is the defect. Grain boundary itself is a defect. So like the India-Pakistan border itself is a problem point. Even India-China is a border point. Again, it's always it's a problem issue. Huh? So in the similar way, so one India is formed with different philosophy. China is formed with a different philosophy. In the similar way, this grain is having different nucleus for formation of this grain. This grain is having different nucleus. The atoms will join together and finally it will be solidified. At between the grain boundary, we can see. I hope you can see there is the distance between the atoms are not uniform. Within the grain, the distance between the atoms is almost uniform, but at the grain boundary, the distance between atoms are not uniform. So we know that attractive forces, because there is attractive forces between atoms, or whenever repulsion forces between the atoms, everything is depending upon the distance. The distance between the atoms are different at the grain boundary. Because of difference in the distances, the force of attractions are different. Or so if you apply a slight amount of load, it may be, now I am coming to your mechanical behavior. In the macroscopic level, if you pull the steel rod, it elongates. So in the microscopic level, so when imagine these are the grains within the steel rod. When this grain is try to move, imagine you are applied some tensile load in the horizontal direction. This grain will try to move in the right direction. This grain will try to move in the left direction. The grain did not break at the grain boundary. The bonding between the atoms are not strong as within the grain. So now, so the here atomic distance is different and that bonding forces are less. So now it may breaks or it may undergo elastic deformation or plastic deformation only at the grain boundary. Imagine you have the wall. If you break the wall most of the time, so imagine wall inside the wall there is a bricks, the strong bricks. The bricks will not normally not break. Between the two bricks, they'll put some cement. The RCC they'll put the cement. They'll put cement concrete. That will be break because that is like a grain boundary. Like we have a building. The building consists of a wall. So within the wall there are bricks. So one brick is separated by other brick by a small boundary. That is normally it is concrete. So whenever building wall collapses, so brick will not break normally. In the similar way, whenever a load is applied to the metals, so this grain will not break. Only few cases it may break because grain is very, very stronger. Like a brick is very, very stronger. Only at the interface is weaker region. Always, this interface is always weaker region. This is interface is always weaker region. Like in the similar to wall. So wall consists of bricks. The bricks are stronger. Whenever if you apply certain amount of load, if you hit with some hammer, so most of the time at the boundary, at the interface between the two bricks, it will break at that particular point. So that in general, you have to remember the grain at the grain boundary is the weakest region. So your plastic deformation takes place because of that weakest grain boundary, or elastic plastic deformation that takes place, or whenever temperature increases. We're talking about there is a one more failure criteria that is referred as a creep phenomenon. So whenever temperature increases, the energy content of the atom will also changes. You're talking about the entire your basic thermodynamics. You're talking about the enthalpy. In the similar way, energy content of the atoms will increase, not liquid or fluid. The energy content of the atoms will increases. As energy content of the atoms will increases, it will try to jump from one grain to the another grain. You have to remember. So whenever temperature increases, so one atom from one grain, it try to jump into the another grain. Because of that, there is again one more type of deformation that is referred as a creep deformation. The phenomenon of creep occurs not at room temperature or at normal, just above the room temperature. Phenomena of creep will not occur. The creep will occur only when the components are subject to loading, mechanical loading. Along with that, if the components are exposed to higher temperature, then only creep will take place. Because at the grain boundary, so atoms will only jump from one grain to the another grain only when there is it gets sufficient an amount of energy. One is because of external loading, and one more type of energy because of higher temperature. One of few example for the component where those components are subject to creep is your internal combustion engine piston or cylinder. You can imagine the temperature of the piston or cylinder is not at room temperature. It is at higher elevated temperature, maybe 200 degrees Celsius or 300 degrees Celsius at higher temperature. Even you studied some aspect of the steam turbine. The steam turbine blades are at not room temperature. It is at higher temperature. It may be around more than 100 degrees Celsius because steam is the boiling point of water itself is 100. So definitely more than 100 degrees Celsius. In the case of gas turbine, the temperature may be very high. So components of the gas turbine blades will be subject to very high temperature. Other than that, so because of flow of the gases over the turbine blades, there is a huge amount of force is acting. So there is a mechanical loading. At the same time, those components are subject to the temperature loading. Because of the temperature loading, there is a one more stress will be developed. Those stresses are developed as the temperature stresses. That you are going to study in mechanics of material. There are, I think, some chapter you are going to study the temperature stresses. So temperature stresses means, imagine you are sitting in the room room are writing the examination, if that surrounding temperature is very high, whether it's warm weather, let it be around 40 degree or 50 degrees Celsius, already you are stressed because you are writing the examination. If there is no fan, the windows are closed, so then temperature is also very high. Imagine in the summer season, so you will stress it further. In the similar way, there is a mechanical loading already existing because of self-weight or centrifugal forces or the pressure acting on the blades. Other than that, the temperature of the metal is very high. Because of that, the additional deformation takes place. That deformation is referred as a creep deformation. I'll go for the next. I think these things, simple cubic already was studied. Just there is one derivation that I'll do later. In the simple cubic, because I may not show these photos in the letter when you're deriving it, it is a handwritten derivation. So this only schematic sketch will be shown. In the simple cubic structure, just at least for you, imagine, I hope you know what is simple cubic structure. So there are, cube means there are 4 corners. All, no, not 4 corner, 8 corner. Top 4 corner, bottom 4 corner. Each corner is having one atom. That you have to remember. We can see here the top 4 corners, there are 4 atoms. Bottom 4 corner, that is totally 4. The 4 plus 4, 8. This is the unit cell. But if you consider one particular atom, only 1/8 of the atom is present within the unit cell. The remaining atom, volume of the atom is shared with adjacent unit cell, top or right, the left, like that, all 3 corners at different places. There are some other portion of the atoms is present within the unit cell. Imagine, even though there are 4 corners, the 8 corner atom, but only 1/8 of the atom is present within the unit cell. You can see here, I think in later stage you are going to see that you have to find out how many actual amount of atoms present within the unit cell. That is when you are calculating atomic packing factor. You have to go for one more derivation where you are going for the atomic packing factor, that you have to define how many atoms are present within the unit cell. But I am telling there are 8 corners. Each corner there are one atom. But in one particular, if you consider one particular corner, only 1/8 of the atom is present, but remaining atoms are present at the adjacent unit cell. That you have to remember, because you are going to writing the formula. The actual amount of present within the unit cell. FCC it will be different, BCC it will be different, and HCP again it is different. There is one more term, it is a coordination number. Number of atoms directly adjacent to the one particular atom is referred as a coordination number. For simple cubic, coordination number is 6. BCC you can understand better. This is for simple cubic. You can see here. You can see. So here only 1/8 of the atom is present. Here we can see within that particular unit cell, there are only 1/8 of the atom is present. The remaining atoms is remaining portion of the atoms are shared with adjacent unit cell. That you have to remember, because I will not explain those concepts when you going for the derivation, because they ask volume of the atoms in the unit cell. To get volume of the atoms in the unit cell, if it is simple cubic, it is not 8 atoms, 8 into volume of each atom, but it is 1 atom into volume of each atom. That you are going to derive later. But at present, you have to remember, in the simple cubic, so there are 8 corner atoms. Only 1/8 of the atom is present within the unit cell. That's why you are saying contains closed pack direction. The unit cell contains 8 atoms into 1/8. 8 atoms. Each atom, only 1/8 of the atom is present within the unit cell. But strictly speaking, in simple cubic, only 1 atom per unit cell. You can see here. There is only 1 atom per unit cell. If you understand this, then derivation will be easy. That means volume of atoms in unit cell divided by volume of unit cell. Volume of the unit cell is A into A into A. Volume of atoms in the unit cell is, you have to find out number of atoms multiplied by volume of each atom. The body centered here you can see, you can understand better, especially for coordination number. So coordination number is nothing but a number of adjacent atoms present around the one atom within the unit cell. You can see this is the body centered atom. Imagine, you can imagine the room. At the center of the room there is one atom, and top corners 4 atom, floor or bottom corner there are 4 atoms. So now one atom is surrounded by 8 atom. Then body centered cubic cell, the coordination number is 8. For simple cubic it is 6, but at least body centered you can imagine how you can see the adjacent atoms. This is the centered atom. Then there are 4 carbon atom, 4 carbon atom at the top, and another 4 carbon directly in contact with the atom. Hence, body centered, the coordination number is 4. See here, you can see here. So this is center atom or body centered atom is shown with it is only the schematic representation with white ball or white sphere. This is a hard sphere model. It is referred to hard sphere model. This particular atom is directly in contact with 8 atom. The top 4 atom, bottom 4 atom. Hence, coordination number is 8. So here also you can see only 1 by 8 of the atoms are present within the unit cell here. So 2 atoms per unit cell. 2 atom means 1. If you find out what is the total amount of atoms present within the unit cell is, 1 is body centered atom. The center atom here, this is one center atom. Then the carbon atom. There are 8 carbon atom, but only 1 by 8 of the carbon atoms are present within the unit cell. Hence, there are 2 atoms per unit cell in the case of BCC. One BCC body centered atom, then 1 comes from the carbon atom. But when you come to simple cubic, we can see here. So there is no body centered atom, only carbon atom, 1 by 1 into 1 by 8. In simple way, you can say that in simple cubic, the total amount of atoms or total number of atoms present within the unit cell is only 1. In the case of BCC, the number of atoms per unit cell is 2. You can see 2. 1 is center atom and contribution from the center atom. Another 1 is contribution from the corner atom. I hope you are understanding the concept, even though you studied in your physics. Still, those concepts are required when you're studying about there are 2 things. One is studying the properties. The second point is when you're studying about how we can change the properties. But in material science, you are not going to deal in the atomic level, but still in the microscopic level, in the grain level or crystallographic level, when you're discussing, you have to understand FCC structure. Once you say aluminum is having FCC structure, you should have what is imagination, how atoms are arranged. When you say iron at room temperature, it is BCC, then you have to imagine how atoms are arranged. But in the examination, they may ask for small derivations of 5 marks, but you have to write the sketch, you have to find out atomic number, coordination number, then you have to find out atomic packing factor. For that, we require to find out how many atoms are present within the unit cell. So again, atomic packing factor, anyhow you are going to go for the derivation, but it is anyhow you have 3D sketches. At least I'll explain how atoms are arranged. So now you have body centered atom here. Imagine this is the carbon atom. Here, this is the carbon atom. The left bottom corner. You understand? Is it PPT is visible now? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now you have to, because in the when you're going for derivation, I will not give 3D to sketches. I will not show, only handwritten derivation I may give. But these 3D may not required for your examination, but only for this diagram is required. For getting imagination, what is this? What is this circle? What is this circle? What is this circle? It is not like just mathematics. So this leftmost atom here, that corresponds to this atom. Then they have put one line here. We have bottom four corner. They have joined one diagonal. This is the diagonal line. Bottom, that is referred as a regular diagonal. For the bottom surface, the diagonal. This is the diagonal line. This is the diagonal line. The length of the diagonal line is 2a, because this is a, this is a, and by using Pythagoras theorem, you get root of 2a. This is root of 2a. So this atom is not in the bottom plane. So this atom is correspond to opposite corner of the top face. This is the top face. You are selecting one atom. So that is directly opposite to the bottom corner. That is referred to the diagonal, the body diagonal. This diagonal is referred to the body diagonal. Imagine in your room, you can imagine one corner. You are joining, you are talking about this floor, one corner. You are identifying the opposite corner in the roof. If you join those two corners, that is the body diagonal. You have to remember. This is, imagine this is a room. Room having four corners. You are considering one corner on the floor, and you are joining imaginary line joining this corner with opposite corner of the roof. That is nothing but a body diagonal. Now again, it will constitute one more right angle triangle. We can see here. This is the right angle triangle. This length is known because this is a, this is a. This length is root 2a. Here you can see this is a root 2a. Then this length you can find out, because this is root 2a. This is a height. It's a simple cubic. The height, length, width, everything is a only. This is a. This is root 2a. From that we can find out the final we get root 3a. That part you remember, but in body centered, the atoms per unit cell is 2, and volume of the unit cell is, but you have to remember volume. It is a sphere. It is referred to the hard sphere model, but atoms are not necessarily exactly spherical. But for our calculation, everything you are saying it is a hard sphere model. The volume of the cube is 4/3 pi r cube. That is a pi r cube. That is the volume of the each atom. But that should be multiplied by number of atoms to get the volume of atoms present within the unit cell divided by volume of the unit cell. Volume of the unit cell is nothing but a into a into a. That is a cube. You can see here it is a cube. Already I have done almost 50% of the derivation. This is a face centered. Just imagine, because this diagram is not required for your examination. No need to worry about this diagram. But this diagram may not be available in most of the textbook also. Only this diagram they are given. But if you see this diagram, you will not get imagination how atoms are arranged. This is face centered. Again, in the face centered, it comes under a cubic structure. There are 8 corner atoms. This is top 4 corner atoms you can see here. Bottom 4 corner atom. Other than top 4 corner atom and bottom 4 corner atom, total you get 8 corner atom. But only 1/8 of the atom is present within the unit cell. But 8 corner atom, 8 into 1/8. That means the contribution from the corner atom is 1 atom, equivalent to 1 atom for FCC structure. Plus all 6 faces, there are one atom. That's why it is referred as face centered. The top face, at the center of the top face, there is a 1 atom. Center of the bottom face, 1 atom. The right side of the right side face, there is a 1 atom. The left side face, there is a 1 more atom. Front face, 1 more atom. Right, bottom, back side face, there is a 1 more atom. Like that, there are how many atoms now? There are 6 faces for the cube. That's why it is referred as hexahedral. So 6 atoms are present, but only half of the atom is present within the unit cell. You have to remember. You can see this diagram, because textbook explanation is given. If you refer any textbook, all explanation is given. But you should be able to visualize or imagine what is face atom. Why you are considering only half of the atom within the unit cell? Why you are considering only 1/8 1/8 of the atom for unit cell. You can see here, this is only the 1/8 of the atom. The remaining portion of the atom is present in the adjacent top, bottom, left, right, the unit cell. So half of the atom is present in the top unit cell. If you consider, I am considering the top face. Another half of the atom is present within the unit cell. What unit cell you are considering? That unit cell half. Another half in the top unit cell. Imagine you are sitting in the classroom. The top one classroom is there. Half of the atom is there in your classroom. Another half is in the top. In the similar way, left side there is one atom, but again it is shared with one more adjacent room. Like this, each faces one atom, but only half of the atoms are present within the unit cell. The remaining half is there in adjacent unit cell. If you imagine those concepts, derivation is hardly, if it takes around 2 to 3 minutes for the derivation. Only you have to write schematic sketch. This is a schematic sketch. In the examination or test, if you write this sketch is sufficient. No need to draw this sketch. So for 8 corner atom, then 6 atom you can see. This is top face atom. This is bottom face atom. This is left face atom. This is right face atom. This is back face atom. This is front face atom. Only half of the atom is present within the unit cell. I think you can see this here. One more diagram you can see. So here, the this is a top face. So one face centered atom you can hear. Half of the atom is present within the unit cell. In the similar way, every phase there is one more atom. These are this cement color. I think this comes under face centered atom, and reddish color it is corner atom. I hope you are getting some imagination about how atoms are arranged. So one thing you have to remember, how atoms are arranged within the unit cell, and how many atoms are present, equivalent atoms or actual atoms are present within the unit cell. Again, 8 corner atom into 1/8 and 6 face atom into 1/2, because half is there. Another half of the atom is in the other side. Finally, 4 atoms per unit cell. There is 6 faces, 6 face atoms into 1/2 and 8 corner atom into 1/8. Atomic pattern for FCC, again, this calculation I am doing later. Don't worry about that. But you have to remember, you have to get the relationship between this A and atomic radius, the R. You have to get the relationship between 2A and A and R. That is all derivation there, that you can do it. But again, the general formula for atomic packing factor is the volume of the atoms present within the unit cell divided by volume of the unit cell. Volume of the unit cell is nothing but volume of the cube. Each side of the cube is A and total volume is A cube. And what atoms present, the volume of the atom within the unit cell is the total number of atoms within the unit cell into volume of each atom. Volume of each atom is 4/3 into R cube into number of atoms within the unit cell is 4. There is a relationship between R and A. So this R is nothing but your 2A/4. That is nothing but your R. Here the formula, that the small relation from the geometry you have to get, because most of the time we know A or unit cell length is known. Those are referred as a parameter, unit cell parameter. A is known. From that we can get the R. Or you have to derive the relationship between the atomic radius R and the length A. That is nothing but a lattice parameter A. So this is a hexagonal closed packed structure. So again, in the hexagon, it is hexagon. It is exactly, just want what I'll do is, okay, I think those are not entered your USN number. You enter your USN number without fail, because that will be considered for your attendance. But strictly speaking, you have to consider this also, this quiz. For timing, I consider attendance from your chart box. You have to enter your name and as well as USN number. I think from this week onwards, we are entering. Those are already entered, no issues. So no need to enter it once again. So every day you are entering in the BIMS, there is separate software. So then once it is entered, every few days, 1 or 2 or 3 days, they will freeze. That we cannot change the attendance. Then later stage, it will be changing the attendance will be difficult. To change one attendance, I have to enter the attendance from roll number 1 to 55 or 60. It will be lengthy process. That's why, without missing, you may, whenever you are present for the class, just in the chat box, you enter your USN number and name. That is important for your attendance. But when you come to hexagonal closed pack structure, so hexagon, it is almost like you have studied about engineering topics you studied in your previous semester, previous year. So there are 8 top. Being a mechanical, you can imagine what is hexagonal prism. So hexagonal prism means there are 6 corner, one atoms are present. Then at the midpoint of hexagon, top midpoint, there is one atom. In the similar way, bottom hexagon, there are 6 atoms, and the midpoint, there is one more atom. Other than that, they are referred to the basal plane. This is also basal plane, and this is also basal plane. Don't think that base means it's only base of the hexagon. This is also referred to the basal plane. This is also referred as a basal plane. So between the two basal planes, there is one more plane of atom. Here there is 3 atoms. These 3 atoms are totally inside the hexagonal prism. You can say that it is totally inside. So there is no 3 atoms into 1/6. There is no 1/6 or 1/2. All 3 atoms are completely inside the unit cell. Like if you are sitting inside the room, 100% you are inside the room. If you are standing at the door, half of your body may be outside, another half of inside. It is happening in the case of here, top corner atoms, this atom. Only half of the atom is present within the unit cell. The remaining half of the atom is present in the adjacent unit cell. But when you come to these 3 atoms, these 3 atoms are completely inside the unit cell or HCP unit cell. So that means in between these planes, plane is a half hexagon of 3 atoms. They are referred as half hexagon. No need to refer it to the half hexagon. It is consists of one more plane of atom. In that particular plane, there are 3 atoms. That is the arrangement of atom. But the derivation is a little bit by using your trigonometric concept. We can derive it. But before going for the derivation, no need to going for the derivation. You should know how atoms are arranged within the unit. That is one part I forgot to tell. So you have to remember some example for different the structure. For FCC, if you are using notebook, better to note down. Aluminum is the example for FCC. Copper, lead, platinum, silver, gold, all will have FCC structure. These are the example. At least remember at least 2 example for FCC structure, another 2 example for BCC structure, like that. For FCC, aluminum is common metals used. Copper is also common metal. If you remember at least 2 example for FCC structure, that is sufficient. HCP, now we can see how atoms are arranged. So here top there are 6 atoms, and mid plane it is about the half hexagon. Here there are 3 atoms, and here there are 6 atoms. 6 here, here we can see this is the overall arrangement. This is one layer. This is one more layer. Basal plane hexagonal layer. This is one more hexagonal layer. This is 3 atom layer. This is the arrangement of atom. These sketches may not be available in most of the textbook. I have downloaded from different sources. At least you should get some imagination how atoms are arranged in FCC, BCC, or different unit cell. Then there is the engineering stress. I'm not going in detail about stresses, already you are studied. This is example for the normal stress. The force is acting, imagine this is a cube, unit cube having unit dimension. Ft is the tensile stress, load is acting here and here. And your stress is equal to force divided by area. I'm not going to explain in detail. Stress is equal to force divided by area. area you are considering, it is a normal stress. This is the direction of the force. This is the direction of the force. The area is this area, top surface area is area you are considering. That is normal to the direction of the force. Hence, you have the tensile stress or compression stress are referred as a normal stress. There is a one more stress, it is referred as a shear stress. You have to remember there are two stresses can be broadly classified into two categories. One is tensile stress and one more is the shear stress. So now I am giving the example for the shear stress. Here force acting is normal. Imagine there is a one more force acting on the surface. The surface example for the surface force is frictional forces. If you move your hand on the table surface, there is a surface contact between the table and your hand. If you move it, that is your surface force. Same thing is shown here. Fs refers to surface force. It is not a point load. Only representation is referred to the Fs. This Fs is acting on the top surface. Again, it is A naught. Even the frictional load between the tire of the vehicle and road surface, that is again the example of surface load. Now I am to understand better what are the practical component it is subject to stresses. You can see there is a huge rock in between here. So this is the place where it is subject to huge amount of stresses, because it may fail. This complete arrangement may fail about this point because here area of the cross section is less. You can see here the stress about this point is very high because the stress is equal to force divided by A. So here A naught is very low. When denominator is low, so definitely stress value is very high. So wherever there is more stress, so component may fail in this region. Those are referred. This region is highly stressed region. Suppose if you are carrying around 15 kg to around 40 kg of load in your head, so your neck is, you are getting pain in the neck because neck is the stressed region, because areas are supporting area is very less compared to your head or other body. That is the stressed region. So this is the stressed region. In simple way, force divided by area. Here area is very less compared to the top or compared to bottom. This complete structure may collapse about this region. That is referred as the weakest region. So even bridges also, there are some columns here. It is referred as the compressive structure member. Civil engineers they will study more about this compressive structure member. So this portion may be subject to compressive load. This subject may be low area may be subject to compressive load. So examination no need to explain all those things. At least you should imagine the how compressive load is acting. But when you come to material science, when load is applied, the dimension is decreases. Suppose the original dimension is 10 mm, it is reduced to 9 mm. So what is happening within the grain or crystal, that part you are studying in the material science. In mechanics of material, you are studying what is the force you are applying, what is the cross-section area, what is the Young's modulus. From that, you are finding out strains or stresses or Young's modulus. That is in the mechanics of material. But you have to do small problems in material science also. But basic concept you are studying in material science is, so you are applying the around 5 ton of load. Because of 5 ton, the member initial length of the member is 10 mm. It is reduced to 9 mm. What is happening inside the the grain? You are not talking about the atomic level. You are talking about the grain level. Grain or crystal in turn consists of unit cell, either BCC, FCC. You are talking about the grain. Grain is a small area. So within that small area, there is a n number of unit cells. So what is happening? What happens when load is member is subject to grain? Whether the grain is compressed or grain is elongated, those concepts you are studying, that is the plastic deformation and elastic deformation in the material science. But in the mechanics of material, for a given load, given cross-section area, what is the elongation? Either compressive strain or tensile strain, those values you are finding out. But what is happening inside the material, why it is compressed, all those concepts you are studying in material science. There is one more stress, that is what I say, shear strain. The shear strain, the cutting of paper is the best example for the shear strain. Cutting of paper, most of the automotive body shops, body manufacturing, there is a shearing machine. That huge sheets may be cut into required size and shape, or plates may be cut into required shape and size. Even automotive or aerospace industry, there is a body shop. So there they manufacture the outer body. There they keep shearing machine. That is example for shear strain. The best example is cutting of paper is the example for the shear rod. This is testing, strain testing by using universal testing machine. Anyhow, I am explaining those concepts for B1, B2 batches. This how tensile test is conducted in the MT lab. We are not going to discuss in detail. But as per your materials science is considered, how the component is elongates, what is the reason for elongation, what is happened to the grain, whether it is elongated or compressed, so whether size of the grain will be changes or crystal will be changes. Those concepts you are studying majorly in material science. Once you say grain, you have to remember the grain consists of many unit cell. Once you say the crystal, again crystal and grains are same. Don't confuse between grain and crystal. Grain and crystals are both are same. That's why you are referring to the metals as polycrystalline material. So now this is in the material science perspective. I am explaining elastic deformation. So imagine these are the atoms, or imagine this is one grain. Within the grain there are many atoms. These are the atoms before application of the load. So once you apply load, let it be tensile load. Imagine the top end is fixed. This is the end is fixed. So this atomic, the material level, atomic level, they lose the, because when it is pulled, it will be elongates. There is an atomic bonding between the adjacent atoms. This bonding will be pulled together, and you can see here what happens here. It is elongated, slightly elongated. So there is a one more here. This length is more compared to this one. So you are applied only the elastic load. So whenever elastic load is applied, the atoms are displaced by a small amount by overcoming the bonding strength, because one atom is bonded with another atom. But when loading is very high, imagine you have a steel rod, you have to apply huge amount of force to get even for getting 1 mm dimension elongations. For steel, imagine you have the steel rod of, let it be 5 mm diameter steel rod. To get 1 mm deformation or elongation, you have to apply huge amount of load. Imagine we have a 5 mm plastic rubber bands. If you pull it, to get 1 mm, we require only less amount of force, because in the case of metal, there is a metallic bond. So the bonding strength is very high. To break the bond, so we require huge amount of force. That means during elastic deformation, the bonds are stretched here. Bonds stretch, you can see here, bonds are stretched. Then slightly they undergo material deformation. And once unload or load is removed, it will return to initial position. This is the elastic deformation. Elastic means it is a reversible. Material undergo deformation, but it is a reversible process. Reversible? Like a spring, your compression, you apply certain small amount of load, it will be compressed. So once you remove the load, it will come back to the original position or initial position. That is the elastic deformation. You can see here, linear elastic force versus deformation. For it is for the steel or metals, you'll get straight line. For plastic or rubber, you will not get straight line. It is after non-linear elastic behavior. Again, in the case of elastic deformation, one is linear elastic deformation. Most of the metals will undergo linear elastic deformation. Rubber and plastics will undergo non-linear elastic deformation. You can see a non-linear elastic curve. This is so stress strain curve also comes like this. Only for getting stress, you have to divide by area here. To get strain, you have to divide by delta by the original length. But most of the time, forced by deformation diagram, you can get what is linear behavior and what is non-linear behavior. The plastic deformation is, imagine you are heating the rod to the red hot condition, you are bending it. Just the best example is building construction, they'll bend the rod depending upon their requirement. They made into ring, square ring, or if the pillar or column is rectangle, then they'll make rectangular ring to keep this vertical rod, steel rods, or reinforcement in one particular direction. Those will comes under the plastic deformation. It is permanently set by hitting with hammer, by bending it. It is permanently bent. That deformation is referred as the plastic deformation. But what is happening for material scientist or material engineer, we should know what is happening inside the material. Yes, even ordinary people, non-engineers also say, bend it, so it will undergo bending permanently, it will bend. If you apply load, the material may bend. Even if you take a steel rod or steel wire, if you apply load, it will bend. Everyone knows. Not necessarily you have to study the engineering course or material science or any courses. But what is happening inside the material? So bonds will be stretched here when you have initial atomic. This is the atomic arrangement. So once it is load is applied, it undergo deformation, stretching of the bond takes place, and sometimes because whenever for a small amount of distance there is the attraction force between the atom, when it crosses some critical value, then so attraction force will decreases, then there may be repulsion force also may take place. Then it is bonds are totally sheared or stressed. So then you have plastic deformation. Once if you unload, the atomic arrangement will not goes for the initial position or original position. But here, this is when it is loaded, the atomic arrangement is changed. Once it is unloaded, it comes back to the original atomic arrangement in the case of elastic deformation. You are talking with respect to atomic level in the material science. In mechanics of material, you are applying 10 kilonewton load. For 10 kilonewton, how much of strain you are getting, how much of deformation you are going to calculate, get that you are going to do calculation. But in material science, you are studying how atoms are displaced, how elastic deformation takes place after unloading, whether atoms are goes back to the original position, etc. Those things you are studying here. Here, after unloading also, atoms is the stretched position because it is already bonds are sheared, or some bonds of the atoms are broken. That is what is the linear elasticity. That means linear elasticity in the sense a stress is directly proportional to the strain. That is given by Hooke's law. It is almost 100 years before. He is more than 100 years, 120 or 120 years before they have developed the Hooke's law. Don't think that you are studying now. Even though you are studying now, Hooke's laws are developed around more than 100 years before. But you are studying Hooke's law only for the one-dimensional loading. Loading takes place in only one direction. But whatever E you are using, so E is only one number in the mechanics of material. But E is the matrix for composite material. It may be 3 by 3 matrix or 6 by 6 matrix for the composite material. It is not a single number. So that means your stress is directly proportional to strain. That proportional limit is replaced by Young's modulus. But in general, you cannot say like this. There is a formula. Your deformation of the material is directly proportional to the load. You have to remember like this. Your deformation of the material undergo deformation. The deformation is directly proportional to the applied load. That itself is the Hooke's law. That is the definition. That is the definition of the Hooke's law. This is a formula for Hooke's law. There is a difference between definition and formula. Then what is Young's modulus? If the Young's modulus is more means this slope is more. The slope is more means there is a more resistance for the deformation. If the material resists more for external loading or more on deformation, then the material is stronger. Or if Young's modulus is more, material is stronger and stronger. There is a plastic deformation. I am going to study about all those things. Today I will stop now. Tomorrow is holiday again. I think day after tomorrow we will continue. You start reading. I told you to purchase the Panish textbook. There is a minimum requirement, and others. I have given one more exam, one more book also. The Material Science by Callister, to understand the concept, to gain more knowledge about material science. I think if you Google it, you get some the free soft copy, especially for material science by Callister. It is available. PDF file is available. You Google it somewhere, you get. If you don't get, I will put the link. I'll give the link so that you can download that particular book. But I cannot download. I cannot share. But you personally, you can download. But I cannot download and I cannot put it in Google Classroom. I cannot share the book in the. You cannot share the book to many students or many people. That is a total violation of copyright. We will be in the trouble later stage. That's why you yourself, your personal use, you can download the books. Not myself is downloading and putting in the Google Class. That is not possible. Only link I will share. If you don't get, tell me. The Material Science by Callister. If you are really interested to read, better option one, best option is purchasing the textbook is the best option. Hard copy of the book, even it is available in Amazon or Flipkart, etc. Second option is you can keep the soft copy of the book. It is PDF file is available. But for your exemption point of view or test point of view, you refer Punished textbook. That is sufficient for three module. Three module is sufficient. Remaining two module, I am giving the notes for the first 10 module also give it. But first three modules, you refer Punished textbook. All points are given. All explanation, brief explanation is given. What is required for your test as well as for your examination. But if you read only the textbook, you require more time to understand, attend the classes, you listen the lecture, and same day go and read the corresponding topic in the textbook. You can understand better, you can gain more knowledge. At the same time, you can get good marks in the test as well as in the examination. Last semester, you had, because of some uncertainty, you had, there is no examination. That repeatedly I'm telling. But this time, you definitely 99% you have, even though you are going for online class, definitely you may have offline examination, because already higher semester students, 8th semester, they are finished. From the last 15 to 20 days, all supplementary students, they are coming and writing the exam. Every day, around more than 100 students coming to the college. They are morning session, one class is there, examination, afternoon session also examination there. It is offline examination. Same offline examination made there for your case also. This time it is very, very clear. No, the promotion of the student to the next semester without writing the examination. I am myself is not quoting. It is quoted by Supreme Court. Okay, thanks. I think we'll continue in the next class. If any doubts, we can discuss now. If you have any doubt, we can discuss. If you don't have any doubt, this is we can leave the session. So purchase the textbook and start studying your PPT or this videos. It is only to understand the concept. Finally, you have to refer the textbook. Just for the sake of entering your names, don't join the class. It will be helpful. It should help to you. You have to attend the class, then only it helps. Not for join the class for a few minutes and leaving and editing your name and USN number. What is the use for it? What is the use? What benefit you are getting? Hardly you may get one attendance. Are you coming for only for getting attendance? For attend? Is it a purpose of joining engineering college? If I am observing few students, they are coming and joining and leaving. Finally, you will lose the opportunities one or other place, or you may lose better opportunities. Everyone will get the opportunities. Don't worry about that. We may lose better opportunities. Okay, others you can leave. I think another 20 students are there. You can leave if there is no questions. If you have any doubt, you can clarify now. This doubt clarification session.